The CEO stopped breathing inside the elevator on the 42nd floor, and the only person who could save her was the janitor she'd been secretly falling for. That's how Logan Carter's carefully invisible life shattered in one night. A single father working graveyard maintenance shifts just to survive, he'd spent months avoiding Charlotte Vale's eyes. She was 30, brilliant, untouchable, the kind of woman who could ruin everything he'd built for his 4-year-old daughter with one careless rumor. But when the elevator cables groaned and the lights flickered out, none of that mattered anymore. If you want to know how a maintenance man and a billionaire CEO fell in love across the most dangerous line in Chicago, stay until the end. Drop a like and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The thing about working nights in a building that costs more than most people earn in 10 lifetimes is that you learn to make yourself small. Not just physically, though Logan Carter had that down to a science, 6'1" frame, somehow compressing into corners and service corridors like smoke, but mentally, spiritually even, if you believed in that sort of thing. Logan didn't believe in much anymore except his daughter's breakfast being on the table by 7:30 and the rent check clearing on the 1st. It was 11:40 on a Thursday in January when he pushed his maintenance cart past the executive suites on Sterling Vale Capital's 42nd floor. Chicago sprawled beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, all ice and amber streetlights and the kind of cold that made your teeth hurt. Logan kept his eyes down. He'd learned that too. Where to look, where not to look, which conversations to overhear, and which to forget before they even registered. The vacuum hummed against Italian marble. His hands worked on autopilot, the same motions he'd performed 5 nights a week for the past 16 months. Empty the trash. Wipe down the conference table. Check the thermostats. Don't touch anything expensive. Don't be seen. Especially don't be seen by her. Charlotte Vale's office sat at the far end of the floor, separated from the other executives by 30 feet of hallway that might as well have been the Grand Canyon. Logan had timed his routine around her schedule. She usually left by 10, sometimes 11, if the markets were volatile. Tonight, the light still burned behind her frosted glass door. He slowed his cart, detoured toward the break room instead. "You're avoiding me." Logan's hand froze on the vacuum handle. He didn't turn around, didn't need to. Her voice had this quality. Not loud, not sharp, just unavoidable. Like wind. "No, ma'am?" The words came out automatic. "Just trying to be efficient with my route." "You've been efficient for 6 months now." Charlotte's heels clicked against the marble, each step precise. "Every time I work late, you suddenly find urgent maintenance issues in the opposite direction." Logan finally turned, but kept his eyes somewhere around her collarbone. Safe territory, professional. "I apologize if my work has been disruptive to your schedule." "That's not what I said." She stood maybe 10 feet away, arms crossed, wearing what Logan had learned to recognize as her armor, a charcoal suit that probably cost more than his car, hair pulled back severe enough to hurt, the kind of posture that said she'd spent her whole life being looked at wrong. She was 30 years old and ran a billion-dollar investment firm her father had built, and everybody in the building either wanted something from her or was terrified of her, usually both. Logan just wanted her to go home so he could finish the bathrooms. "I should let you get back to work," he said quietly. "Why won't you look at me?" The question hung in the air between them like frost. Logan's jaw tightened. Outside, snow had started falling again, fat flakes drifting past windows that cost more to install than he'd make in a year. "I do look at you, Ms. Vale. When we speak, I'm always respectful. You look at my shoulder, sometimes my forehead, if you're feeling bold." She took 3 steps closer. "But you've never once looked me in the eye." Logan's fingers gripped the vacuum handle hard enough to hurt. This was dangerous. This whole conversation was a minefield, and he could feel the ground shifting under every word. "With respect, I'm maintenance staff. You're the CEO. There's a professional boundary." I talked to the mail clerk, the security guards, the woman who brings lunch from the Vietnamese place on Fridays. Charlotte's voice didn't rise, but something in it sharpened. "They all look at me. Some of them stare too long. Some barely glance. But you're the only person in this building who acts like meeting my eyes might kill you." Because it might, Logan thought. Because you're exactly the kind of complication I can't afford. Out loud, he said, "I apologize if I've made you uncomfortable. Stop apologizing." Charlotte ran a hand across her face, and for just a second the CEO mask cracked. She looked tired. Actually tired. Not the performative exhaustion rich people wore like accessories. I'm not offended. I'm curious. There's nothing curious about it, Ms. Vale. I'm just trying to do my job. At midnight on a Thursday. It's when they schedule me. You requested nights. She said it like a fact, not a question. I checked with HR. Logan's stomach dropped. She'd checked with HR about him, about his schedule. The walls were definitely closing in now. I have a daughter, he said carefully. She's 4. Daycare costs less if I can drop her off early and nights pay a differential. Something shifted in Charlotte's expression. Not pity. Logan had learned to recognize pity, and he hated it with his whole chest. But something else. Recognition, maybe. What's her name? Emma. Just Emma? No middle name? Emma Rose. The words came out softer than he meant them to. She's named after my grandmother. Charlotte nodded slowly, like he'd confirmed something she'd been wondering about. The snow kept falling outside. Somewhere 42 floors below, the city was alive. Bars full of people pretending to have fun, couples fighting on street corners, the whole messy human thing. Up here, it was just silence and expensive air and a conversation that needed to end about 5 minutes ago. I should finish my route, Logan said. It's almost midnight. Don't you need to get home? I work until 2. That's insane. That's rent. Logan immediately regretted the edge in his voice. I mean, that's my schedule, Ms. Vale. I'm used to it. Charlotte studied him for a long moment, and Logan kept his eyes firmly on her left shoulder. Professional. Appropriate. Safe. Okay, she finally said. I'll let you get back to it. She turned toward her office, heels clicking against marble, and Logan felt something in his chest unclench. Crisis averted. Boundary maintained. Everything back to normal. Then she stopped. My father used to work nights, Charlotte said without turning around. When he first started the firm, my mother would put me to bed and he wouldn't come home until I was already at school the next morning. I was 7 when I realized other kids' dads came home for dinner. Logan didn't say anything, didn't know what to say. I used to hate him for it, Charlotte continued. Thought he cared more about money than us. Took me until college to understand he was just terrified of losing everything he'd built. Terrified we'd end up back where he came from. She looked back over her shoulder, and this time Logan's eyes met hers before he could stop himself. They were gray, he realized, not blue like they looked in the company photos. Gray like Lake Michigan before a storm. Your daughter's lucky, Charlotte said quietly, to have someone who works that hard for her. Then she disappeared into her office, and Logan stood alone in the hallway with his vacuum and his racing heart and the distinct feeling that something had just changed in a way he didn't fully understand yet. The apartment was dark when Logan got home at 2:45 a.m. He locked the door quietly. 3 locks, 2 chains, the kind of security that said the neighborhood wasn't great but the rent was manageable, and stood in the entryway for a moment, letting his eyes adjust. Mrs. Chen was asleep on the couch, snoring softly with her reading glasses crooked on her face. The TV played some late-night talk show on mute. Logan pulled a blanket over her shoulders and left $80 on the coffee table, $60 for watching Emma, $20 extra because Mrs. Chen was 73 and lived on Social Security, and he knew she needed it even if she'd never admit it. Emma's room smelled like lavender and children's shampoo. Logan stood in the doorway watching his daughter sleep. Her dark hair spread across the pillow, one hand clutching the stuffed elephant she'd had since she was 6 months old. She looked peaceful. Safe. That was all that mattered. Logan changed quietly in the bathroom, avoiding his reflection in the mirror because he knew what he'd see. Exhaustion written in lines around his eyes, the kind of tired that sleep didn't touch anymore. 32 years old, and he felt 50. Felt like he'd lived 6 different lives already, and none of them were the one he'd planned. He checked the locks again. Habit. Then pulled out his phone and opened the banking app. $847 in checking, $3,200 in savings that he wasn't allowed to touch, except for actual emergencies. Rent was due in 8 days. $1,450 for the apartment, $380 for Emma's daycare, $120 for utilities if he kept the heat low and didn't run the dishwasher. That left about $400 for groceries, gas, and everything else life decided to throw at him. The math worked. Barely. It always barely worked. Logan set an alarm for 6:30, 3 hours and 45 minutes of sleep if he fell asleep immediately, and lay down on the mattress he'd bought off Craigslist 2 years ago. The Springs complained. Outside, the city rumbled with distant sirens and someone's car alarm and all the noise of people living lives that intersected with his only at the edges. He tried not to think about Charlotte Vale. Tried not to think about the way she'd looked at him when he finally met her eyes. Tried not to think about how his carefully constructed walls had developed a crack he didn't know how to fix. He failed at all three and lay awake until the alarm went off, which felt about right for how his life worked lately. Emma was a morning person in the way only 4-year-olds could be, explosively, violently cheerful from the moment her eyes opened. Logan made her chocolate chip pancakes because it was Friday and Fridays were special, and because Mrs. Chen had texted him at 6 a.m. that she'd caught Emma crying last night missing her daddy. "Why do you work at nighttime?" Emma asked around a mouthful of pancake. "Why can't you work when I'm at school?" "Because nighttime jobs pay better, sweetheart. And they let daddy be here when you wake up and when you go to sleep. But you're tired all the time." Logan looked at his daughter, at those huge brown eyes that saw too much, and felt something crack in his chest. "I'm okay, Em. Promise. Mrs. Chen says you work too hard." "Mrs. Chen talks too much." Emma giggled. "She says you need a wife." "Oh, she does she?" "She says everybody needs somebody to take care of them, even daddies." Logan flipped another pancake, buying himself time to figure out how to respond. Emma's mother had left when Emma was 8 months old, packed a bag one morning while Logan was at work and disappeared so completely it was like she'd never existed. No note, no explanation, just gone. Emma didn't remember her, didn't ask about her anymore. To Emma, family was just her and Logan and Mrs. Chen and the couple of daycare workers she liked. Simple, uncomplicated. Logan wanted to keep it that way. "I've got you," he said finally. "That's all I need. And Mrs. Chen. And Mrs. Chen. And my elephant. Obviously the elephant. Can't forget Mr. Trunks." Emma dissolved into giggles, and Logan felt the tightness in his chest ease slightly. This was what mattered. This moment. This kitchen. This kid who thought chocolate chip pancakes were the height of luxury. He dropped Emma at daycare at 7:45, kissed her forehead, promised to pick her up at 5:30. Drove home through rush hour traffic that made his head pound. Collapsed onto his bed, still wearing his shoes. Slept for 5 dreamless hours. Woke up, made instant coffee, ate leftover pancakes standing over the sink. Picked up Emma. Made her dinner. Helped her with a puzzle. Read her 3 stories even though the deal was usually 2. Watched her fall asleep holding Mr. Trunks. Called Mrs. Chen. Showered, changed into his work uniform. Drove back to Sterling Vale Capital and started the whole thing over again. Ji Shuoch. Charlotte was in her office when Logan arrived at 10:30. He could see her through the frosted glass, a silhouette backlit by her desk lamp. He took the long route to the supply closet. The building was quieter on Fridays. Most of the executives left early, started their weekends at whatever expensive places rich people went. Logan vacuumed conference rooms that smelled like expensive cologne and leftovers from catered lunches. Emptied trash cans full of paper that probably contained information worth more than his annual salary. He was wiping down the kitchen on 41 when Charlotte found him. "You're early tonight," she said from the doorway. Logan didn't jump. He'd heard her heels on the tile, but his hands stilled on the counter. "Emergency situation on 37, broke pipe. They needed me to cover up here early." It wasn't entirely a lie. There had been a pipe. It just hadn't needed him specifically. Charlotte nodded, leaning against the doorframe. She'd loosened her hair from its severe bun, and it fell around her shoulders in waves that made her look younger, more human. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, Ms. Vale." "Do you hate working here?" Logan turned to face her, surprised enough to forget his usual careful eye contact avoidance. "No. Why would you think that?" "You seem miserable every time I see you." "I'm not miserable, I'm just—" Logan paused, searching for the right word. "Focused. I've got responsibilities." "Emma." "Yeah, Emma." Charlotte crossed her arms, studying him with an intensity that made Logan want to look away, but somehow couldn't. "What happened to her mother?" If you don't mind me asking. I do mind, actually. The words came out harsher than he meant them to. Charlotte's expression flickered, surprise, maybe hurt, but she didn't retreat. Okay, she said simply. I'm sorry for overstepping. Logan sighed, ran a hand through his hair. No, I'm sorry. That was rude. It's just not something I talk about. Understood. They stood in silence for a moment. Outside the windows, Chicago glittered like something out of a movie. Beautiful and cold and completely indifferent to the people living inside it. Her mother left, Logan heard himself say. When Emma was 8 months old, just left. No warning, no explanation. One day she was there, the next day she wasn't. Charlotte's face softened. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're better off without her. Emma doesn't even remember her. That doesn't mean it didn't hurt you. Logan looked away. Back to the counter he'd already wiped clean twice. It doesn't matter if it hurt. All that matters is keeping Emma safe and fed and happy. Everything else is just noise. That's a very practical way to look at it. It's the only way I can afford to look at it, Ms. Vale. Charlotte. Logan glanced back at her. What? Call me Charlotte, please. Ms. Vale makes me feel like my mother. That's not appropriate. Neither is me interrogating you about your personal life at 11 p.m. on a Friday. But here we are. Charlotte smiled slightly. I'm not asking you to be friends, just asking you to use my first name when it's just us. It's a trap, Logan's brain supplied helpfully. Everything about this is a trap. Okay, he said anyway. Charlotte. Her smile widened, and Logan realized with a sinking feeling that he was in serious trouble. Over the next 3 weeks, Charlotte kept finding him. Not obviously, not in a way that would raise eyebrows or start rumors, but somehow she was always working late on the nights Logan was scheduled for the executive floor. Always needed coffee when he was restocking the kitchen. Always had a question about the thermostat or the blinds or some other minor thing that definitely didn't require the CEO's personal attention. Logan knew what was happening, knew he should shut it down. Didn't. They talked about small things at first. Chicago weather, the coffee shop on the corner that Charlotte insisted made the best lattes in the city, the weird modern art sculpture in the lobby that neither of them understood but both pretended to appreciate when the artist visited. Then the conversations got deeper. Charlotte told him about growing up rich, but not feeling rich, about a father who built empires but forgot to come home for birthdays, about pressure that felt like drowning from the moment she understood what her last name meant. Logan told her about community college dreams that died when Emma's mother got pregnant, about working 3 jobs that first year, about the terror of holding a tiny human who depended on you for literally everything and having no idea what you were doing. They didn't talk every night. Some nights Charlotte actually left early. Some nights Logan managed to avoid her section entirely. But the nights they did talk started to feel like something Logan looked forward to, which was exactly the problem. You're playing with fire, Mrs. Chen said one morning when Logan came home and couldn't stop smiling. Rich girl like that, poor boy like you. It's a movie, not real life. We're just talking. Talking leads to thinking. Thinking leads to feeling. Feeling leads to heartbreak. You're very dramatic, Mrs. Chen. I'm Chinese. We invented drama. Logan laughed, but Mrs. Chen's expression stayed serious. I like you, Logan. You're a good boy, good father. But that girl lives in a different world. You think her people going to accept a maintenance man with a daughter? You think her father's company going to let her date the help? We're not dating. Not yet. But you want to. I can see it in your face. Logan didn't have an answer for that, because Mrs. Chen was right. Somewhere in the past 3 weeks, want had crept in like water under a door, and now he was standing in a flood. But the elevator incident happened on a Tuesday in February. Logan was on 42 replacing light bulbs in the conference room when he heard Charlotte scream, sharp, cut off, wrong. He dropped the bulbs and ran. She was trapped in the executive elevator, the one that only went to the top 3 floors. Through the gap between the doors, he could see her pressed against the back wall, face pale, breathing too fast. Charlotte? Logan grabbed the doors, tried to force them open. They didn't budge. Are you hurt? Can't breathe. Okay, listen to me. You're having a panic attack. The elevator's stuck, but you're safe. I need you to breathe with me. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Can you do that? Charlotte nodded, eyes wide and terrified. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. He talked her through it 3 times while his other hand worked his radio, calling down to building security, to engineering, to anyone who could help. The elevator had stopped between 41 and 42, some kind of mechanical failure that shouldn't have been possible with all the safety systems. How long? Charlotte gasped. They're coming. 10 minutes, maybe 15. I can't do 15. Yes, you can. Hey, look at me, look at my eyes. Charlotte's gaze locked on his through the gap. Tell me about Emma, she said suddenly. Tell me something about your daughter. So Logan talked. Told her about Emma's obsession with dinosaurs, about the time she tried to bring a rock collection to daycare and cried when they made her leave it home, about how she sang made-up songs in the bathtub that didn't rhyme, but somehow made perfect sense. Charlotte's breathing slowed, steadied. She sounds wonderful, Charlotte whispered. She is. She's the best thing I ever did. You're a good father, Logan. The words hit him square in the chest. Nobody said that to him. Nobody saw him that way. He was the maintenance guy, the night worker, the single dad barely holding it together. But Charlotte saw something different. The elevator suddenly lurched, and Charlotte screamed again. It's okay. They're resetting the system. Logan pressed his hands against the doors like he could hold them in place through will alone. 30 seconds and you're out, I promise. The elevator climbed slowly, aligning with the 42nd floor. The doors opened and Charlotte practically fell into Logan's arms, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. I've got you, Logan said quietly. You're safe. Charlotte buried her face in his shoulder, and Logan held her while she tried to remember how to breathe like a person who wasn't terrified. She smelled like expensive perfume and fear, and something else he couldn't name. Her hair was soft against his chin. His heart was pounding so hard he was sure she could feel it. Building engineering arrived, talking fast about mechanical failures and safety protocols and elevator company liability. Security came. Charlotte's assistant materialized from somewhere with a bottle of water and a chair. Charlotte didn't let go of Logan. Ms. Vale, her assistant said carefully, maybe you should sit. I'm fine. Charlotte finally stepped back, smoothing her suit jacket. Her hands were still shaking. I'm fine. Thank you, Logan. You were... Thank you. Of course. Logan took a step back, remembering suddenly where they were, who might be watching. I'm glad you're okay. Their eyes met, and Logan saw something there that made every warning bell in his head scream danger, danger, danger. Charlotte saw it too. He could tell by the way her breath caught, the way her pupils dilated slightly. Charlotte gestured vaguely toward her office. Reports to file, safety protocols to review. Right, yeah, of course. Logan watched her walk away, watched her assistant follow, watched the elevator doors close on the engineering team. Then he went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on his face until his hands stopped shaking. Mrs. Chen was right. He was playing with fire, and he was absolutely going to get burned. The rumors started 3 days after the elevator incident. Logan first heard them in the break room on the 34th floor, 2 accountants talking in voices they thought were quiet enough. Charlotte Vale and the maintenance guy, stuck in an elevator together for 20 minutes. Did you see how she was holding on to him? Someone said they went to her office after. Someone else said security had to separate them. Logan stood in the supply closet with his hand frozen on a box of trash bags, listening to his life unravel in real time. I heard she's sleeping with him, one of them said. No way, she's too smart for that, but definitely something going on there. He's got a kid, doesn't he? Single dad? Gold Digger probably saw her coming a mile away. Logan left the trash bags and took the stairs down to the basement, where nobody went except to check the furnace. He sat on a concrete step in the dark and tried to figure out how everything had gone so wrong so fast. His phone buzzed. A text from Charlotte. Need to talk. My office when you get a chance? Logan stared at the message for a full minute before typing back. Not a good idea right now. 3 dots appeared immediately. Disappeared. Appeared again. Charlotte, please. He should have said no. Should have put his phone away and finished his shift and gone home to Emma and pretended the last month had never happened. Instead, he found himself walking back up to 42 at 11:15 when the floor was empty except for Charlotte's office light burning like a beacon. She was standing by the windows when he knocked, turned around fast like she'd been waiting. "Close the door," she said. "I'd rather not." "Logan, people are talking, Charlotte, about us, about the elevator." Charlotte's jaw tightened. "I know, my assistant told me this morning. Apparently half the company thinks we're having an affair. And the other half thinks I'm trying to take advantage of you for money. That's insane. You've never asked me for anything." "Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what they believe." Logan stayed in the doorway, hand on the frame like it could anchor him. "This is exactly what I was trying to avoid." Charlotte crossed her arms, and Logan recognized the gesture now. Not defensive, just trying to hold herself together. "So what, we just stop talking? Pretend we don't know each other?" "We barely do know each other." "That's not true, and you know it." Logan closed his eyes. She was right. Somewhere in the past month, they'd crossed a line from polite coworker conversations to something else. Something that felt like friendship, or the beginning of friendship, or maybe something he didn't want to name because naming it made it real. "I have a daughter," he said quietly. "I can't afford to lose this job. And you're the CEO. You can't afford the scandal." "I don't care about scandal." "Yes, you do. You have to. Your board, your investors, your father's legacy, all of that goes away if people think you're—" Logan stopped, unable to finish the sentence. "If they think I'm what? Involved with someone below my station?" Charlotte's voice went sharp. "Is that what you think this is about? Class? Isn't it?" "No, it's about the fact that you're the first person I've talked to in years who doesn't want anything from me, who treats me like a human being instead of a title." Logan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I'm the maintenance guy, Charlotte. I empty your trash. I fix your lights. We're not friends. We're not anything." "Then why are you here?" The question hung between them like a challenge. Logan didn't have a good answer, didn't have any answer except the truth, which was dangerous. "I should go," he said instead. "You always do that. Every time we get close to something real, you run. Because something real will destroy everything I've built for Emma. You think I want to be alone? You think I like working myself to death just to afford a shitty apartment in a bad neighborhood? I don't, but it's stable, it's safe, and the second I let myself want something more," Logan's voice cracked. He hated how much she could see through him. "It all falls apart." Charlotte took 3 steps toward him. "What if it doesn't? It always does. Not always, not if we're careful. There's no careful version of this, Charlotte. You know that." She stopped a foot away from him, close enough that Logan could smell her perfume, see the exhaustion in her eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Looked like she was holding on to something fragile that might break if she squeezed too hard. "I'm tired," Charlotte said softly. "I'm so tired of being alone, of pretending I don't care about anything except quarterly reports and shareholder value, of going home to an empty apartment and wondering if this is all there is." "Charlotte, I know it's selfish. I know you have real problems, and I'm just some rich girl complaining about being lonely, but I can't—" She pressed her fingers to her eyes. "I can't stop thinking about you, and I know that's not fair to you, but I needed you to know." Logan felt something in his chest cave in. This was the moment where he could walk away and keep his life intact, keep the walls up, keep Emma safe. He stayed. "I think about you too," he admitted, "all the time, and it scares the hell out of me." Charlotte looked up at him, and her eyes were wet. "Yeah?" "Yeah." They stood there in her office with the city spread out below them, 2 people from completely different worlds trying to figure out if the space between them could ever be crossed. "I don't know how to do this," Logan said finally. "I don't know how to want something for myself without it feeling like I'm taking something from Emma. Maybe wanting something for yourself makes you a better father. Maybe Emma deserves to see you happy. She's 4. She doesn't care if I'm happy. She just cares if I'm there." "Kids aren't as oblivious as you think," Charlotte smiled sadly. "I knew my father was miserable. Knew my mother was lonely. They thought they were protecting me by staying together, by maintaining appearances. But all I learned was that love meant suffering silently." Logan thought about Emma asking why he worked nights. Thought about Mrs. Chen saying he needed someone to take care of him. Thought about all the ways he tried to be enough for his daughter and all the ways he kept falling short. "What are you suggesting?" he asked carefully. "I don't know. Dinner? Coffee? A conversation somewhere that isn't a corporate building at midnight? People will see. Let them see. Easy for you to say. You're the CEO. Worst case, you get some gossip. I get fired and lose custody because I can't provide for my daughter." Charlotte flinched. That wouldn't happen. You don't know that. You don't know what family court looks like when you're poor, when they're looking for any excuse to decide you're unfit. Is that what happened before? With Emma's mother? Logan's hands clenched into fists. No, she just left. Didn't fight for custody, didn't want it. But that doesn't mean the system won't decide I'm not good enough someday. You're an incredible father, Logan. Anyone who spent 5 minutes with you would see that. Yeah, well, family court judges don't usually spend 5 minutes getting to know you. They look at your income, your housing, your work schedule, and they make decisions based on numbers. Charlotte was quiet for a long moment. Outside, snow had started falling again, blurring the city lights into something soft and almost beautiful. "I have an idea," she said finally. "But you're going to think it's crazy." "I already think this whole conversation is crazy." "Fair point." Charlotte took a breath. "What if we did this completely under the radar? No public dinners, no office interactions beyond professional, just two people getting to know each other away from all the noise, like a secret relationship, like a private one. There's a difference." Logan wanted to argue, but he couldn't find the words. Because part of him, the part that had been lonely for 3 years, the part that lit up every time Charlotte smiled, the part that was so damn tired of being scared all the time, that part was screaming yes. "I need to think about it," he said. Charlotte nodded. "Okay, that's fair." Logan turned to leave, made it 3 steps before her voice stopped him. "Logan?" He looked back. "Thank you. For being honest with me. For treating this like it matters." "It does matter," Logan said quietly. "That's the problem." He left before she could respond, before he could change his mind, before he could do something stupid like cross the room and kiss her the way he'd been thinking about for weeks. The hallway was empty. The elevator was fixed. Logan took the stairs anyway, needing the time to clear his head. His phone buzzed halfway down. "Charlotte, I meant what I said. About you being an incredible father." Logan stared at the message until his vision blurred, then shoved the phone in his pocket and kept walking. At home, Emma was asleep with Mr. Trunks tucked under her chin. Mrs. Chen was watching a Korean drama with subtitles, eating instant noodles from a styrofoam cup. "You look like hell," she said without looking away from the screen. "Thanks, Mrs. Chen." "The rich girl?" Logan collapsed onto the couch next to her. "How do you always know?" "I'm 73. I've seen every story there is." She paused her drama, turned to look at him properly. "You like her." "I can't like her." "But you do." Logan scrubbed his hands over his face. "It doesn't matter what I feel. The logistics are impossible." "Logistics," Mrs. Chen snorted. "You talk like an accountant. Love isn't logistics." "I'm not in love with her." "Not yet. But you're close, I can see it." "You can see a lot for someone who's supposed to be watching TV." Mrs. Chen patted his knee. "I like her. The way you talk about her. It's different. You smile. You don't smile about anyone except Emma." "That's not true. When's the last time you smiled about something for yourself? Something that wasn't Emma's happiness, or making rent, or keeping the lights on?" Logan didn't have an answer for that. "She makes you feel like a person again," Mrs. Chen continued. "Not just a father, not just a worker, a person with wants and dreams. That's dangerous, but it's also good. What if I screw it up? What if Emma gets hurt? What if you don't? What if Emma gets to see her father happy for once?" Logan looked at the wall, at the cracks in the paint he kept meaning to fix, at the whole shabby apartment that was barely enough but somehow had to be. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "Nobody does. That's what makes it love." "I told you, I'm not Chen." "You will be." Mrs. Chen picked up her noodles again, unpaused her drama. "Now stop bothering me. This is the good part where the CEO falls for the poor fisherman." "That's not helpful, Mrs. Chen." "I know, but it's entertaining." Logan went to bed but didn't sleep. Lay awake thinking about Charlotte's eyes, Emma's future, all the ways this could go wrong. thinking about the last time he'd let himself want something, Emma's mother, a future, the kind of stability that seemed so easy for everyone else, and how thoroughly that had fallen apart. But he also thought about Charlotte pressed against him in the elevator, shaking and terrified and somehow trusting him to make it okay. Thought about the way she talked about her father, about loneliness, about all the money in the world not being enough to fill certain kinds of empty. Maybe Mrs. Chen was right. Maybe feeling like a person again was worth the risk. His phone lit up on the nightstand. Another message from Charlotte. Charlotte, Vietnamese restaurant. Friday night, 7 p.m. No pressure, but I'll be there either way. Logan typed and deleted 5 different responses before settling on, I'll think about it. Charlotte, that's all I'm asking. He thought about it for 4 days straight. Thought about it while making Emma breakfast, while dropping her at daycare, while trying to sleep through afternoons that felt too bright and too loud. Thought about it during his shifts, carefully avoiding the 42nd floor, taking routes that kept him far away from Charlotte's office. But Friday came anyway, inevitable as weather. Logan picked up Emma at 5:30 like always. Made her chicken nuggets and steamed broccoli because she'd eat the broccoli if he promised ice cream after. Read her 2 books, Goodnight Moon and the one about the dinosaur who was afraid of the dark, and tucked her into bed by 7. Mrs. Chen arrived at 6:45 wearing her good coat, the one she saved for church. You're dressed up, Logan said. So should you be. That shirt has a stain. Logan looked down. She was right. I'm not going. Yes, you are. I already told my daughter I'm busy tonight. Don't make me a liar. Mrs. Chen. Logan. She grabbed his shoulders, forced him to meet her eyes. I've known you 3 years. 3 years of watching you work yourself to death, of seeing you pretend you don't need anything except that little girl sleeping in there. And you're a good father. The best I've ever seen. But Emma needs to see you take care of yourself too. She needs to learn that adults are allowed to want things, to be happy. What if I'm not good at it anymore? Being happy. Then you practice, like everything else. Mrs. Chen pushed him toward the bedroom. Now change your shirt and brush your teeth. You smell like floor cleaner. Logan changed, brushed his teeth, stared at himself in the bathroom mirror, and tried to remember the last time he'd gone on a date. 4 years? 5? Emma's mother had been the last person he'd tried to be romantic with, and look how that turned out. You look handsome, Mrs. Chen said when he came out wearing his one good button-down. The navy one, Emma said, made his eyes pretty. I looked terrified. Same thing when you're in love. I'm not. I know, not in love yet, but you will be. She pushed him toward the door. Now go. Emma's asleep. I'll be here until you get back. I'll be back by 9:30, 10 at the latest. Take your time. I brought my knitting. Logan hesitated at the door, hand on the knob. What if this is a mistake? Then it's your mistake to make. Now go before I push you down the stairs. The Vietnamese restaurant was in a neighborhood Logan didn't know, 20 minutes from his apartment in a direction he never went. Small place, narrow storefront, windows steamed from soup and crowded with people who all seemed to know each other. Nothing like the places Charlotte probably usually ate. Logan spotted her immediately. She was sitting at a corner table wearing jeans and a sweater, hair down around her shoulders, no makeup that he could see. She looked nervous. She looked beautiful. She looked up and saw him, and her whole face changed. Logan crossed the restaurant feeling like he was jumping off a cliff. You came, Charlotte said, standing up too fast and knocking her water glass. It didn't spill. I said I'd think about it. You said no pressure. I lied. There was absolutely pressure. Charlotte smiled, and it was nothing like her CEO smile. It was real. I'm really glad you're here. Logan sat down across from her, hyper-aware of every eye in the restaurant, every person who might recognize her, might recognize him. But nobody looked twice. They were just 2 people having dinner, unremarkable in their ordinariness. How'd you find this place? Logan asked. I didn't. You did. You mentioned it once that Emma loves their spring rolls, so I asked around until I found it. Logan felt something warm expand in his chest. You remembered that. I remember most things you tell me. A server appeared with menus, speaking rapid Vietnamese to Charlotte, who responded in what sounded like passable pronunciation. The server laughed, said something else, and disappeared. You speak Vietnamese? Logan asked. Badly. I took a class in college because I was dating someone from Hanoi and thought it would impress him. Did it? Not even a little. He dumped me 2 weeks later for a linguistics major. Charlotte shrugged. But I kept taking the class. Turned out I actually liked it. Logan smiled despite himself. I can't picture you as a college kid. I was terrible at it, too serious, too focused on my father's expectations. I think I went to exactly 2 parties in 4 years. What changed? Nothing. I graduated, started working for my father, and became exactly what everyone expected me to become. Charlotte looked down at her menu. I don't know if I've ever really chosen anything for myself. Except maybe this. Vietnamese food? You. The word hung between them, too big and too real for the small table in the crowded restaurant. Logan's throat went tight. You don't know me well enough to choose me, he said quietly. Then let me get to know you. The server came back before Logan could respond, and Charlotte ordered in a mix of Vietnamese and English, while Logan tried to remember how breathing worked. She ordered too much food, spring rolls and pho and grilled pork and things Logan couldn't pronounce. And when he protested, she just smiled. Emma can have the leftovers, she said. You're already thinking about leftovers? I'm a planner. It's a problem. The food arrived in waves, steaming and fragrant, and Logan realized he was actually hungry for the first time in days. They ate and talked, and the conversation flowed easier than it should have, easier than Logan expected. Charlotte asked about Emma's dinosaur obsession and listened like she actually cared about the difference between a brachiosaurus and a brontosaurus. Logan asked about running a company, and Charlotte told him stories that made the job sound less like power and more like drowning in other people's expectations. My father built this company from nothing, Charlotte said, dragging a spring roll through sauce. Came here from nothing, worked 3 jobs, saved every penny. By the time I was born, he was already successful, but he never stopped being terrified of losing it all. Sounds familiar. Does it? Different scale, but yeah, same fear. Logan paused. Is he still around? Your father? Charlotte's expression shuddered. He died 2 years ago. Heart attack at his desk. He was 63. I'm sorry. Don't be. We weren't close. Charlotte took a sip of water. He left me the company and a note that said, don't screw it up. That was it. No, I love you. No, I'm proud of you. Just a reminder that his legacy mattered more than anything else. Logan didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to comfort someone grieving a parent who was gone, but had never really been there. Emma's lucky, Charlotte said after a moment. To have you. You're present. You show up. That matters more than money. Money helps, though. It does. But it doesn't replace the other stuff. They finished eating, and the server brought tea, sweet and hot in small cups. The restaurant had gotten quieter, people filtering out until it was just a few stragglers and Logan and Charlotte in the corner pretending the rest of the world didn't exist. Can I ask you something? Charlotte said. Sure. When Emma's mother left, did you see it coming? Logan wrapped his hands around his teacup, let the heat ground him. No, I thought we were happy. Thought we were building something. One morning I went to work, and when I came home, everything was gone. Her clothes, her books, the cheap engagement ring I'd saved for 6 months to buy. Just gone. Did she say why? She left a text. 3 weeks later. Said she wasn't ready to be a mother, wasn't ready to be tied down. Said I'd understand someday. Logan's laugh was bitter. I've never understood. Emma was perfect, is perfect. How do you look at your own daughter and just walk away? I don't know, but I'm sorry she did that to you, to both of you. We're better off without her. Maybe, but that doesn't make it hurt less. Charlotte was right, and Logan hated how easily she could see through him. Hated and was grateful for it in equal measure. Why me? He asked suddenly. You could date anyone. Someone successful, someone who fits in your world. Why the broke maintenance guy with a kid and a used car? Charlotte smiled. 'Cause you're the first person in years who's talked to me like I'm Charlotte, not Charlotte Vale, CEO. Because you tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Because you love your daughter more than anything, and that kind of love... She stopped, swallowed hard. That's rare. That's real. I'm a mess, Charlotte. I work nights, I barely sleep. I live in a shitty apartment in a bad neighborhood. I can't take you to nice restaurants or buy you expensive things or... I don't want expensive things. I have expensive things. They don't make me happy. What does make you happy? Charlotte looked at him for a long moment, and Logan saw something in her eyes that made his chest ache. "This," she said quietly. "Right now. Sitting in a Vietnamese restaurant with someone who sees me. That makes me happy." Logan reached across the table before he could stop himself, let his hand cover hers. Her skin was soft, warm, and when her fingers curled around his, it felt like falling and flying at the same time. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Scared this won't work. Scared I'll screw it up. Scared Emma will get hurt. I'm scared too. But maybe that's okay. Maybe being scared means it matters." They sat like that for a while, hands linked across a table sticky with sauce. Two people trying to figure out if wanting something was enough to make it real. Logan's phone buzzed, a text from Mrs. Chen. "Emma woke up. Fine now. Take your time." He showed Charlotte the message and she smiled. "You should get home." "I should." Neither of them moved. "Can I see you again?" Charlotte asked. "Like this. Away from work. Just us." Logan knew the smart answer, knew he should say no, should put distance between them before this turned into something he couldn't control. But looking at Charlotte's face, open and hopeful and so damn beautiful, he couldn't make himself say it. "Yeah," he said instead. "I'd like that." Charlotte's smile could have lit the whole city. They split the check even though Charlotte protested, and Logan walked her to her car, a sleek black thing that probably cost more than he'd make in 5 years. She unlocked it but didn't get in, just stood there in the cold looking at him like she was trying to memorize his face. "Thank you," she said, "for giving this a chance." "Thank you for asking." Charlotte stood on her toes and kissed his cheek, quick and soft, and Logan felt it all the way down to his bones. Then she was in her car, pulling away into traffic, and Logan was standing alone on a street corner in a neighborhood he didn't know, feeling like his entire life had just tilted sideways. He drove home in a daze, parked in front of his building, sat in the car for 5 minutes trying to process what had just happened. Mrs. Chen was waiting with raised eyebrows and a knowing smile. "So?" she asked. "So what?" "Don't play dumb." "How was it?" Logan sank onto the couch, bone-tired and wide awake all at once. "I think I'm in serious trouble, Mrs. Chen." "Good trouble or bad trouble?" "I don't know yet." Mrs. Chen patted his shoulder. "Love is always both. That's how you know it's real." She left, and Logan checked on Emma, still asleep, still holding Mr. Trunks, before collapsing into bed with his clothes still on. His phone buzzed one more time. "Charlotte." "I had a really good time tonight." Logan smiled at the ceiling, feeling young and stupid and terrified. Logan. "Me too." Charlotte. "Same time next week?" Logan. "Yeah, same time next week." He fell asleep still smiling, and for the first time in 3 years, the fear felt worth it. They managed to keep it quiet for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of stolen Friday nights at restaurants across the city, always somewhere new, always somewhere nobody from Sterling Vale would think to look. Charlotte learned the names of every dinosaur in Emma's collection. Logan learned that Charlotte stress-ate gummy bears during board meetings and had read every Jane Austen novel at least 3 times. They texted constantly, stupid things, small things, the kind of minutia that didn't matter except it did. Charlotte sent him pictures of terrible modern art with captions like, "Explain this to me like I'm 5. Logan sent her videos of Emma's bedtime songs, off-key and beautiful. At work, they were careful, professional. Charlotte stopped working late on Logan's nights. When they passed in hallways, Logan kept his eyes down like always, and Charlotte pretended not to notice him. It was working, until it wasn't. The first crack appeared on a Wednesday in late March when Logan's supervisor pulled him aside during his shift. "Corporate wants to see you," Dave said, not meeting Logan's eyes. "HR office, tomorrow at 2. Logan's stomach dropped. "What for?" "Didn't say, but..." Dave lowered his voice. "Look, I like you, Carter. You're a good worker, but if you're doing something stupid, now's the time to get ahead of it." "I'm not doing anything." "Sure. That's why the CEO's assistant specifically requested you be available during business hours for a meeting that couldn't wait until your regular shift." Logan made it through the rest of his shift on autopilot, his mind racing. They knew. Somehow they knew. Maybe someone had seen them at one of the restaurants. Maybe Charlotte's assistant had figured it out. Maybe his phone buzzed at 2:15 a.m. Charlotte, did you get called to HR? Logan, yeah, tomorrow at 2. You? Charlotte, board meeting at 3. My assistant said it was urgent. This isn't good. Logan, we've been careful. Charlotte, not careful enough apparently. Logan stared at his phone, watching the dots appear and disappear as Charlotte typed and deleted responses. Finally, a message came through. Charlotte, whatever happens tomorrow, I don't regret this. Logan, me neither. Charlotte, we should probably stop texting in case they check phone records. Logan, yeah. Charlotte, Logan? Logan, yeah? Charlotte, I'm falling for you. I needed you to know that before tomorrow. Logan sat in the empty 42nd floor hallway and tried to breathe around the weight in his chest. He'd known. Of course he'd known. But seeing it written out, real and undeniable, made everything feel suddenly too big to handle. Logan, I'm falling for you too, and I'm terrified. Charlotte, good. Me too. They didn't text after that. Logan went home and didn't sleep. Watched the ceiling and tried to plan for every possible scenario. Getting fired was the most likely outcome. HR would give him some excuse about restructuring or performance issues, something that sounded legal, and he'd be out. Unemployment wouldn't cover rent. He'd have to find another job fast, probably multiple jobs, and childcare would become impossible, and he stopped himself before the spiral got worse. One crisis at a time. At 1:30 p.m., Logan dropped Emma at daycare, kissed her forehead twice for luck, and drove to Sterling Vale Capital. He'd never been there during daylight hours. The building looked different in sunshine, less imposing, more ordinary. Just glass and steel and people in expensive suits pretending they were important. HR was on the 18th floor. Logan had cleaned it 100 times but never actually been inside the offices. The receptionist barely looked up when he gave his name. Conference room B, they're waiting for you. They, plural. Logan's hands went clammy. The conference room held 3 people. Helen Park, from HR, someone Logan didn't recognize in a suit that screamed lawyer, and Marcus Webb, the company's chief operating officer, Charlotte's second in command. Mr. Carter, thank you for coming. Helen gestured to a chair. Please, sit. Logan sat, kept his hands folded on the table so they wouldn't shake. I'm sure you're wondering why we asked you here, Helen continued. Her voice was pleasant, professional, the kind of tone that preceded bad news. We've received some concerning reports about your conduct. What kind of reports? The lawyer leaned forward. Multiple employees have noted what they perceive as an inappropriate relationship between you and Ms. Vale. We take workplace harassment very seriously. Harassment? Logan's voice came out sharper than he meant it to. I've never harassed anyone. That may be your perception, Mr. Carter, but we have to investigate any allegations. What allegations? Who said I harassed Charlotte? Ms. Vale? Helen and the lawyer exchanged a look. Marcus Webb spoke for the first time, his voice cold. No one's accusing you of harassment, son. We're accusing you of taking advantage of your position to pursue a personal relationship with a superior, which violates company policy and creates a hostile work environment. Logan almost laughed. Taking advantage of my position? I'm maintenance. What position? You have access to executive floors after hours. You've been observed spending excessive time in Ms. Vale's office. Phone records show regular text communication between you and Ms. Vale's personal number. Marcus pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. We have documentation. Logan opened the folder. Inside were printouts, timestamps showing when he'd entered and exited the 42nd floor, security camera stills of him and Charlotte talking in hallways, phone records showing hundreds of texts over 6 weeks. They'd been watching. The whole time they'd been watching. This is insane, Logan said quietly. We're both adults. If we want to text each other, Ms. Vale is the CEO of this company. You are hourly staff. The power dynamic makes any relationship inherently inappropriate. Helen's voice softened slightly. Look, we understand these situations can be complicated, but we have to protect the company and Ms. Vale's reputation. Protect her reputation from what? From me? from the appearance of impropriety, from gossip, from potential lawsuits if this relationship goes south and you decide you were coerced or taken advantage of. Logan's hands clenched into fists under the table. That's not what's happening here. Nevertheless, we need you to sign this. The lawyer pushed a document across the table. It's a termination agreement with a severance package, 2 months' salary, continuation of health benefits for 90 days, and a confidentiality clause. You're firing me. We're restructuring your position. The severance package is generous given the circumstances. Logan scanned the document. The confidentiality clause was highlighted. Employee agrees not to discuss the nature of their relationship with Charlotte Vale or the circumstances of their termination with any third party, including but not limited to media outlets, social media platforms, or other Sterling Vale Capital employees. You want me to sign away my right to even talk about this. We want to resolve this quietly and professionally, for everyone's benefit. Logan pushed the document back. No! Helen blinked. I'm sorry? I said no, I'm not signing anything. Mr. Carter, if you don't sign, your termination will be for cause. No severance, no benefits, and a permanent mark on your employment record that will make it very difficult to find another job. I haven't done anything wrong. Charlotte and I, Ms. Vale and I, we've been careful. We haven't violated any policies. The fraternization policy clearly states we're not fraternizing at work. What we do on our own time is our business. Marcus Webb leaned forward, and his expression was pure ice. Let me be very clear, Mr. Carter. You can sign this document and walk away with enough money to support your daughter while you find new employment. Or you can refuse, and we'll make sure every company in Chicago knows exactly why you were terminated. Your choice. The threat landed like a punch. Logan's vision tunneled. You can't do that. We absolutely can. And we will. Marcus smiled, and it was the kind of smile that said he'd done this before. Think about your daughter. Think about what's best for her. Using Emma against him. They were actually using his daughter as leverage. Logan stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. I need to make a phone call. You can call your attorney after you sign. I need to call Charlotte, Ms. Vale. She should know about this. Helen's expression flickered. Ms. Vale is in a board meeting. She can't be disturbed. Then I'll wait. Mr. Carter, I'll wait. Logan walked out of the conference room, out of the HR suite, down the hall to the elevators. His hands were shaking so hard he could barely press the button. When the elevator doors opened on the 42nd floor, Charlotte's assistant looked up in surprise. You can't be up here during business hours. Where is she? Mr. Carter, I'll have to call security. Where's Charlotte? The boardroom door opened and Charlotte stepped out, already talking to someone over her shoulder. She stopped dead when she saw Logan. What are you? Her eyes went to his face. What happened? They're firing me, unless I sign an NDA and disappear. Charlotte's expression went from confused to furious in about 2 seconds. Excuse me? HR conference room B, they've got phone records, security footage, everything. They want me gone. This is a board meeting, someone said from inside the room. We're in the middle of... Give me 5 minutes. Charlotte grabbed Logan's arm, pulled him into her office, slammed the door. Tell me everything. Logan did. The whole meeting, the documentation, the threats about Emma, Marcus Webb's smile. Charlotte's face went progressively paler. Marcus called this meeting, she said quietly, told me it was about Q1 projections, but the board's been in there for an hour talking about company culture and liability. They set us up. They set you up. I'm the CEO. They can't touch me directly, so they're going after you. Charlotte paced to the window, back again. This is my fault. I should have known they'd try something like this. It's not your fault. Yes, it is. I'm the one with power here. I should have protected you better. Charlotte, did you sign anything? No, I came to find you first. Charlotte pulled out her phone, dialed a number. Michael, it's Charlotte Vale. I need you at my office in 20 minutes. Employment law emergency. Yes, I know it's expensive. I don't care. She hung up and turned to Logan. My attorney. Best in the city. He'll make sure they can't do this. Charlotte, I can't afford... Well, you're not paying. I am. That's not... I don't care if it's appropriate or fair or whatever else you're about to say. They're using you to get to me, and I'm not letting them win. Charlotte's voice was steel. You're not losing your job because of me. There was a knock on the door. Marcus Webb stepped in without waiting for permission. Charlotte, the board is waiting. Tell the board I'm dealing with an emergency. This is the emergency. You and Mr. Carter need to end whatever this is before it destroys your credibility and this company's reputation. Charlotte walked right up to Marcus, and even though she was 5 inches shorter, her presence somehow filled the room. Did you authorize HR to threaten my employee? I authorized them to handle a delicate situation appropriately. By threatening his custody of his daughter, Marcus didn't flinch. We used the leverage available to us. You used a 4-year-old child as leverage. We used his circumstances. There's a difference. Marcus turned to Logan. Mr. Carter, you seem like a decent person, but you're out of your depth here. Take the severance. Move on. Find someone more appropriate. Everyone wins. Except Logan loses his job and I lose. Charlotte stopped herself. Exactly. You lose nothing because there's nothing to lose. A few dinners, some texting. It's not real, Charlotte. You're lonely and he's convenient. In 6 months, you won't even remember his name. The words hit Logan harder than they should have, because part of him had been thinking the same thing, that this was temporary, that Charlotte would eventually realize what everyone else already knew, that he didn't belong in her world. Get out, Charlotte said quietly. Charlotte. Get out of my office, now. Marcus looked at Logan, back to Charlotte. The board wants this resolved today. Either he signs the agreement or we escalate. Your choice. He left. The door clicked shut and the silence that followed felt like pressure building before an explosion. I should sign it, Logan said. No. Charlotte, they're going to make this ugly. They'll drag your name through every... I don't care. I do. I care about Emma, about my job, about... Logan ran his hands through his hair. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Exactly why I didn't want to do this in the first place. Charlotte's face crumpled. So you regret it? No, that's not what I... You regret me. I regret that you're being put in this position because of me. I chose this, Logan. I chose you, and I'd choose you again. Charlotte's voice broke. But if you want out, if this is too hard, it's not about want. It's about reality. They're right. I'm maintenance, and you're the CEO, and no matter how much we pretend otherwise, those worlds don't mix. They can. We can make them. How? Your board wants me gone. Your COO just threatened my daughter. How do we come back from that? Charlotte grabbed her phone again, pulled up something, showed him the screen. It was an email draft addressed to the board. Effective immediately, I'm taking a leave of absence from Sterling Vale Capital. Marcus Webb will serve as acting CEO while I'm gone. I'll return when the board can accept that my personal life is my own business and not subject to corporate approval. Logan stared at the email. You can't send that. Watch me. Charlotte, this company is your father's legacy. You'd walk away from it for you. Yes. She said it simply, like it was obvious. I spent 30 years of my life doing what everyone expected, following rules I didn't make, being who they wanted me to be. And I was miserable. Then I met you, and for the first time in my entire life, I felt like I could breathe. So yes, I'd walk away, in a heartbeat. Logan felt something crack open in his chest. That's the most romantic and also most insane thing anyone's ever said to me. I know. I'm learning how to be impulsive. It's terrifying. Charlotte set her phone down. But I mean it. They can have the company. I just want you. You say that now, but what happens in 6 months when the novelty wears off? When you realize I'm just a broke single dad who can barely keep his life together? Then I'll still want you because you're not just anything, Logan. You're everything I didn't know I needed. Someone knocked again. Charlotte's assistant peeked in. Your attorney's here, and the board is getting impatient. Send Michael in. Tell the board I'll be there when I'm ready. The attorney was exactly what Logan expected. Expensive suit, leather briefcase, the kind of confidence that cost $400 an hour. He listened to Logan's story, looked over the termination agreement, and frowned. This is legally questionable at best. The fraternization policy requires disclosure, not prohibition. And using his daughter as leverage could be considered coercion. Michael looked at Charlotte. If we fight this, we'll probably win, but it'll be public and messy. How messy? Logan asked. Depositions, document discovery, potential media coverage. They'll dig into everything. Your relationship, your finances, your custody arrangement. It won't be pleasant. Logan thought about Emma, about lawyers asking her questions, about her name in court documents, about growing up with kids who knew her dad sued a company and lost. I can't do that to her, he said quietly. Then we negotiate, Michael said. Better terms, higher severance, a neutral reference, and we get them to drop the NDA. The NDA's the whole point, Charlotte said. They want him silent. They want you protected. There might be middle ground. Michael stood. Let me talk to Helen. See what's actually on the table versus what's just intimidation. He left. Charlotte and Logan sat in her office watching the city below. Spring had finally arrived. The lake was blue instead of gray. Trees were budding. People walked without hunching against the cold. I'm sorry, Charlotte said finally, for all of this. You were right. I was selfish. I should have thought about the consequences before you... Stop. You don't get to apologize for wanting something, for wanting me. Logan turned to face her. This isn't your fault. It's just life, complicated and unfair and harder than it should be. So what do we do? I don't know. They sat in silence until Michael came back 20 minutes later. Okay, here's what I got. They'll increase the severance to 4 months' salary, health benefits for 6 months, neutral reference that confirms dates of employment and says nothing about cause of termination. And they'll modify the NDA. You can't talk to media or other employees, but you're free to discuss the situation with family, legal counsel, and in any official proceedings. That's it? Charlotte asked. That's better than the original offer. They're worried about the coercion angle. Helen knows they overplayed their hand with the daughter comments. Logan did the math in his head. 4 months' salary was almost $16,000. 6 months of health coverage. Time to find something new without panicking about Emma's next doctor visit. It was more than he'd make fighting. What do you think? He asked Charlotte. I think it's your choice, not theirs, not mine. Yours. Logan looked at the woman who'd just offered to walk away from a billion-dollar company for him, who'd hired an expensive attorney without blinking, who saw him as something more than just the maintenance guy. I'll take it, he said. On one condition. Michael raised an eyebrow. What condition? The NDA goes both ways. They don't discuss this with anyone either. No whisper campaigns, no blackballing me from other jobs. Complete silence. I can get that added. Then we have a deal. Michael nodded and left to draw up the revised agreement. Charlotte stood at the window with her arms wrapped around herself. I should have fought harder, she said. You did fight. You're still fighting. Logan crossed to her, turned her to face him. But some fights we can't win, not without losing more than we gain. So they just win? Marcus and the board and everyone who thinks people like us don't belong together? They win this round. But they don't get to decide what happens next. We do. Charlotte searched his face. What does happen next? I find a new job. You stay here and keep running this company better than your father ever did. And we figure out if this thing between us is real or just... It's real, Charlotte interrupted. At least for me it is. For me too. But Charlotte, I can't be the reason you lose everything your father built. I can't be that person. You're not. I'm choosing. I know, but I'm choosing too. I'm choosing to sign that agreement so you don't have to fight a war you didn't start. I'm choosing to protect my daughter. And I'm choosing to figure out what we are when we're not sneaking around or dodging your board. Charlotte's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to lose you. You're not losing me. I'm just not going to be here every night anymore. Then where will you be? I don't know yet. But wherever it is, you're welcome there. If you want. Charlotte kissed him. Right there in her office, with the door unlocked and the board waiting down the hall. She kissed him like she was trying to memorize the taste of him, and Logan kissed back like maybe this was goodbye, or maybe it was just the start of something different. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. I need to get back to the board, Charlotte whispered. I know. Don't sign anything until Michael reviews the final version. I won't. And Logan? She touched his face. This isn't over. Whatever they think, whatever anyone thinks, we're not over. Okay? Say it. Say we're not over. We're not over. Charlotte kissed him once more, quick and fierce, then walked out to face her board. Logan sat in her office for a long time after, looking at the city she commanded, wondering how he'd ended up here. Michael came back an hour later with papers. Logan read every word twice, signed where indicated, dated it. Just like that, he was unemployed. He drove home in the middle of the afternoon, a time he was never usually awake. The city looked different in daylight, brighter, louder, full of people with normal jobs and normal lives. Logan felt like a ghost. Mrs. Chen was waiting on his apartment steps. "You're home early." "I got fired." Her face fell. "Oh, Logan, it's okay. I got severance, 4 months. We'll be fine." "The CEO girl?" "Yeah, they found out, decided I was more disposable than she was." Mrs. Chen pulled him into a hug that smelled like jasmine and laundry soap. "I'm sorry." "Me too." He picked up Emma early from daycare, took her to the park even though it was a Wednesday, pushed her on the swings until his arms ached and she begged for just 5 more minutes. That night he tucked her in and she asked why he was home so early. "I got a new job," Logan lied. "Different schedule." "Will you be here more?" "Yeah, sweetheart. I'll be here more." Emma smiled and fell asleep holding Mr. Trunks, and Logan sat in the dark trying to figure out how he was going to keep that promise. His phone lit up. "Charlotte, did you sign?" Logan, "Yeah." Charlotte, "I'm sorry." Logan, "Don't be, I'm not." Charlotte, "What now?" Logan looked at his sleeping daughter, at the cracks in the ceiling, at all the broken pieces of a life he'd somehow managed to keep together through force of will. Logan, "Now I figure out what comes next, and hope you're still there when I do." Charlotte, "I'll be here, I promise." Logan believed her. He didn't know if that made him brave or stupid, but he believed her anyway. The first week without work felt like drowning in slow motion. Logan woke up Tuesday morning at 6:30, out of habit, lay in bed staring at the ceiling, and realized he had nowhere to go. No shift to prepare for, no building to clean, just empty hours stretching ahead like a canyon he didn't know how to cross. Emma noticed immediately. "Why are you still here?" she asked over breakfast, chocolate milk mustache on her upper lip. "My new job doesn't start for a while, remember? So I get to hang out with you more." "Every day?" "Every day." Emma's face lit up like Christmas. "Can we go to the zoo?" "Maybe. We'll see." "That means no," Emma said wisely, and Logan felt it like a knife. 4 years old, and she already knew that "we'll see" meant not enough money, not right now, maybe never. He dropped her at daycare and came home to an apartment that felt too quiet. Applied to 11 jobs online, maintenance positions, custodial work, anything that might pay close to what Sterling Vale had. Most required night shifts. All of them paid less. His phone buzzed around noon. "Charlotte, how are you doing?" Logan stared at the message. He wanted to tell her the truth, that he was terrified, that the severance wouldn't last as long as it should, that he'd already started doing math on how many meals he could skip to make groceries stretch further. But that felt like dumping his problems on someone who'd already sacrificed enough. Logan, "Fine. Job hunting. You?" Charlotte, "Board meeting from hell. Marcus is positioning himself as the hero who saved the company from scandal. I want to throw my coffee at him." Logan, "Please don't. Coffee's expensive." Charlotte, "I miss you." The words hit Logan in the chest. They hadn't seen each other in 6 days. 6 days that felt like 6 months. Logan, "Miss you too." Charlotte, "Can I see you? Tonight?" Logan looked around his apartment, at the peeling linoleum, the secondhand furniture, the whole shabby reality of his life that Charlotte had never actually seen. She'd been a fantasy, someone he met in nice restaurants wearing his one good shirt. Bringing her here felt like peeling back a layer he wasn't ready to expose. Logan, "Emma has a thing at daycare, probably not a good night." Charlotte, "Tomorrow then?" Logan, "I'll let you know." He felt like a coward the second he sent it, but the thought of Charlotte seeing where he actually lived, seeing the cracks and the stains and the broken dishwasher he couldn't afford to fix, it made his skin crawl. Mrs. Chen found him an hour later sitting on the apartment steps, staring at nothing. "You look like death," she said cheerfully. "Thanks, Mrs. Chen. The CEO girl wants to see you." Did you read my texts?" "Your phone was on the counter. I have good eyes." She sat down next to him with a grunt. Why did you lie to her? I didn't lie. Emma does have something at daycare. Next week, not tonight. You lied because you're ashamed. Logan's jaw clenched. I'm not ashamed. Then why won't you let her see where you live, where Emma sleeps, the real life you keep talking about protecting? Because it's not good enough. For who? Her or you? Logan didn't have an answer for that. Mrs. Chen patted his knee. She already knows you're poor, stupid boy. She saw you in a janitor uniform. You think she's going to be surprised by a small apartment? It's not about the apartment. It's about… Logan gestured helplessly. Everything. I lost my job because of her. I'm living on severance that's running out. I can barely afford Emma's daycare. What kind of relationship is that? What do I even have to offer? Yourself. That's all anyone has to offer. That's not enough. It was enough last week. Last week I had a job. Mrs. Chen stood up, her knees cracking. You know what your problem is? You think love is about deserving, about being good enough or having enough. But love doesn't care about bank accounts or job titles. Love just is. She headed back inside, then paused. That girl fought her whole company for you, hired expensive lawyers, put her reputation on the line. And you're hiding from her because your dishwasher's broken? Stupid. Very stupid. She was right. Logan knew she was right. But knowing didn't make it easier. He picked up Emma at 5:30, made her chicken nuggets again because they were cheap and she'd eat them without complaining. Helped her sound out words in her library book. Cat, dog, son, run. Simple words for a simple life. His phone rang at 8:30 after Emma was asleep. Charlotte's name lit up the screen. Logan almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail so he could keep hiding, but his thumb hit accept before his brain caught up. Hey, he said. Hey. Charlotte's voice sounded tired. You've been avoiding me. I haven't. Logan, don't lie. You're terrible at it. A pause. Did I do something wrong? No, you've been perfect. Then why won't you see me? Logan leaned against the kitchen counter, eyes closed. Because I don't know how to do this anymore. The sneaking around, the restaurants, the pretending, that made sense when we both had jobs and lives. But now I'm unemployed and living off your lawyer's negotiation, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be to you. You're supposed to be Logan. That's it. That's all I want. But what does that mean? What are we doing here, Charlotte? Really? Charlotte was quiet for a long time. I don't know. I just know I don't want to stop. Maybe we should, before this gets more complicated. It's already complicated. It's been complicated since the elevator. Maybe since the first time I asked why you wouldn't look at me. Charlotte's voice cracked slightly. I'm not good at this. At being vulnerable, at needing someone. But I need you, Logan, and if you don't feel the same way, if this was just, I feel the same way. That's what scares me. Why? Because needing someone means they can hurt you, means they can leave, and I can't… Logan stopped, the words catching in his throat. Emma's mother left without a word. One day she was there, the next she was gone, and I had this tiny human depending on me and no idea how to keep both of us alive. I swore I'd never put Emma in that position again, never bring someone into our lives who could just disappear. I'm not going to disappear. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. You're right. I can't promise I'll never hurt you or that this will work out perfectly. But I can promise I'm here right now, and I want to stay here. If you'll let me. Logan opened his eyes, looked around his apartment, at Emma's drawings on the fridge, at the pile of bills on the counter, at all the evidence of a life held together with duct tape and determination. Okay, he said quietly. Okay, come over tomorrow, after Emma goes to bed, 7:30. Logan, if you're not ready, I'm not. But Mrs. Chen says I'm being stupid, and she's usually right about these things. Charlotte laughed, and it sounded like relief. I like Mrs. Chen. Everyone does. It's annoying. I'll bring wine, unless you don't drink wine. Do you drink wine? I just realized I don't actually know. Charlotte. Yeah? I'm terrified. Me too. They stayed on the phone for another hour, talking about nothing and everything. Charlotte told him about the board meeting, about Marcus's smug face, about wanting to quit on the spot. Logan told her about job applications, about Emma's new obsession with frogs, about Mrs. Chen's endless supply of Korean dramas. It felt normal, almost easy. When they finally hung up, Logan felt lighter than he had in days. The next evening, Logan cleaned the apartment like his life depended on it, scrubbed the bathroom until the grout gleamed, vacuumed twice, hid the pile of bills in a drawer, put fresh sheets on his bed even though Charlotte wouldn't see his bedroom, probably shouldn't see his bedroom, definitely wasn't going to see his bedroom. Mrs. Chen arrived at 7 to watch Emma. "You look nice," she said, eyeing his button-down. "It's the same shirt I always wear. You ironed it, that's new." She pushed past him into the apartment, nodded approvingly. "Very clean. She'll be impressed." It's not about impressing her. Everything is about impressing her. You're in love. We're not. Logan gave up. Emma's already asleep. She had a big day at daycare. "I know how to babysit, Logan. I've been doing it for 3 years. "Right, sorry." Mrs. Chen softened. "Relax. The girl likes you. She's not going to care about your furniture." Easy for you to say. Nothing about love is easy. That's how you know it matters. Charlotte arrived at 7:32, carrying a bottle of wine that probably cost more than Logan's weekly grocery budget. She'd changed out of her work clothes into jeans and a sweater, hair down, minimal makeup. She looked beautiful and nervous, and so out of place in his building's dim hallway that Logan's chest hurt. "Hi," she said. "Hi." They stood there for a moment, suddenly awkward, all the phonies evaporating. "This is weird," Charlotte said finally. "Yeah. Can I come in, or are we doing this in the hallway?" Logan stepped back, let her in, watched her eyes take in the small space, the worn couch, the kitchen table with mismatched chairs, Emma's toys in a plastic bin by the window, the whole shabby reality of how he actually lived. "It's small," he said unnecessarily. "It's nice. It feels like a home." Charlotte set the wine on the counter, turned to face him. "Why were you so afraid to show me this?" "Because it's not good enough." "For who?" "For you. For Emma. For—" Logan gestured helplessly. "Look at this place, Charlotte. Look at where I live. You have a penthouse, a company, a life that costs more than I'll make in 10 years. And I'm here in a one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where we hear gunshots sometimes. What am I supposed to offer you?" Charlotte crossed the space between them, took his hands. "You offer me honesty, kindness. Someone who sees me as Charlotte, not Charlotte Vale, CEO. Someone who makes me laugh and challenges me and doesn't want anything except my company." She squeezed his fingers. "That's worth more than any penthouse." "That's easy to say when you have a penthouse to go back to." "You're right. It is easy for me. I can play it normal, it's simple, and then go home to my comfortable life." Charlotte's voice went quiet. "But I don't want to play, Logan. I want this to be real. I want to figure out how to make 2 impossible lives fit together. And I can't do that if you won't let me see all of it. The good parts and the hard parts and everything in between." Logan looked at her. At this woman who'd fought her entire board for him, who'd shown up at his apartment in a building with broken lights and no security, who was looking at him like he hung the moon despite all the evidence to the contrary. "I'm a mess," he said. "I know. I have a daughter who comes first, always. Before you, before me, before everything. I know that too. I'm unemployed and living on severance, and I have no idea what happens when the money runs out. So we figure it out. Together." Logan pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. She smelled like expensive perfume, and underneath that, just Charlotte. Solid and real and here. "I don't know how to do this," he whispered. "Neither do I. But we can learn." They opened the wine. Charlotte laughed at his mismatched glasses and didn't comment when Logan only filled his halfway. Sat on his worn couch and talked about everything they hadn't been able to say over text. Charlotte told him about the board meeting in detail, about how Marcus was already positioning himself to take over if she showed any more signs of being compromised by her personal life. "He's waiting for me to screw up," she said. "One more scandal, one more distraction, and he'll have enough votes to push me out." "Maybe you should let him." Charlotte looked at him sharply. "What? You said yourself you've spent your whole life doing what everyone expected. What if you just stopped, walked away, did something else?" "Like what? The company is all I know." "So learn something new. You're 30 years old, Charlotte. You could do anything." "I have responsibilities. Employees who depend on that company for their livelihoods. My father's legacy. Your father's dead, and legacies are just stories we tell ourselves about who we're supposed to be. Logan set down his wine. You want to know what I think? I think you're brilliant and capable and wasted on a job you don't even like. I think you stay because leaving feels like failure, but sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. Charlotte stared at him. You're telling me to quit. I'm telling you that you have options, that you don't have to be defined by your last name or your father's expectations or what some board thinks you should do. This from the man who works himself to death because he's terrified of being poor? Yeah, exactly. I know what it's like to be trapped by fear, and I don't want that for you. Charlotte laughed, but it sounded watery. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Both scared of different things, but ending up in the same place. Where's that? Alone. Until we weren't. Logan pulled her closer, and Charlotte curled into his side like she belonged there. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the city noise filtering through the thin walls, someone's TV too loud, a couple arguing in Spanish, the constant background hum of other people's lives intersecting with theirs. Emma's room, Charlotte said suddenly. Can I see it? Logan hesitated, then nodded, led her down the short hallway to the tiny bedroom. Emma was asleep, breathing softly, Mr. Trunks clutched tight. Charlotte stood in the doorway for a long moment, just watching. She's beautiful, Charlotte whispered. Yeah, she is. She looks like you, same eyes. Everyone says that. Charlotte turned to look at him, and her expression was soft in the dim hallway light. You're a good father, Logan. I know I've said it before, but I need you to really hear it. What you've built here, the life you've given her, it's remarkable. It's barely enough. It's love. That's more than enough. They went back to the living room. Charlotte asked to see photos, and Logan showed her his phone. 3 years of Emma growing up in snapshots. First steps, first day of daycare, endless pictures of her holding various rocks and sticks and treasures only a 4-year-old could appreciate. I want to meet her, Charlotte said. Officially. Not as the CEO or some random person, as whatever I am to you. Charlotte, I know it's complicated. I know she's your priority, and I don't want to confuse her or make promises we can't keep. But I also can't keep being this separate part of your life. If we're doing this, really doing this, then I need to be part of all of it. Logan's heart was racing. What if it doesn't work out? What if Emma gets attached and then we handle it like adults? We make sure she's okay. We don't just disappear. Charlotte took his hand. I'm not her mother, Logan. I would never try to be. But maybe I could be. I don't know. A friend. Someone who cares about both of you. Logan thought about Emma asking why he was home so much, about her questions about Mrs. Chen saying everyone needs somebody, about all the ways his daughter was growing up learning that family meant just the two of them against the world. Okay, he said, finally, but we take it slow. Really slow. As slow as you need. And if at any point it's too much, if Emma seems uncomfortable, we stop. We reassess. I promise. Charlotte stayed until almost midnight, talking and laughing and existing in Logan's space like she'd always been there. When she finally left, she kissed him at the door, soft and sweet and full of promise. Thank you, she said, for letting me in, for trusting me. Thank you for staying. Logan watched her drive away, then went inside to find Mrs. Chen pretending she hadn't been listening from the kitchen. She's good for you, Mrs. Chen said. I know. Emma will like her. I hope so. She will. Children know good people. Mrs. Chen gathered her knitting. When are you going to introduce them? I don't know. Soon, maybe this weekend. Good. Too much waiting makes things harder. After Mrs. Chen left, Logan checked on Emma one more time. She'd kicked off her blanket, sprawled across the small bed like she owned the world. Logan covered her gently, kissed her forehead. Things are changing, Em, he whispered. I hope you're ready. Emma stirred, mumbled something about frogs, went back to sleep. Logan lay in his own bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Charlotte in his apartment, about her meeting Emma, about all the ways this could go right or catastrophically wrong. His phone buzzed. Charlotte, I had a really good time tonight. Logan, me too. Charlotte, your apartment is perfect. Emma's room is perfect. You're perfect. Logan, I'm definitely not perfect. Charlotte. Perfect for me then. Logan smiled in the dark. Logan. Saturday. Lincoln Park. There's a playground Emma loves. We could meet there. Casual. Just 2 adults and a kid at a park. Charlotte. I'd love that. Logan. Fair warning, she's obsessed with frogs right now. You're going to hear a lot about frogs. Charlotte. I'll study up. Logan. You don't have to. Charlotte. I want to. I want her to like me. Logan. She will. It's impossible not to like you. Charlotte. You're biased. Logan. Completely. They texted for another hour until Logan's eyes started closing mid-sentence. The last message he saw before falling asleep was Charlotte saying goodnight with a heart emoji that felt simultaneously too much and exactly right. Saturday arrived wrapped in sunshine and Logan's complete terror. He changed his shirt 3 times, made Emma put on the dress she hated, then let her change back into jeans when she threatened to scream. They arrived at the park 15 minutes early, and Emma immediately ran for the swings. Charlotte showed up exactly on time, wearing casual clothes that probably still cost more than Logan's monthly rent, but at least looked appropriate for a playground. She had a small bag over her shoulder and looked as nervous as Logan felt. Hi, she said. Hi. They stood there awkwardly until Emma came running over, suspicious. Who's that? She demanded. This is my friend Charlotte. Charlotte, this is Emma. Hi, Emma. Charlotte crouched down to Emma's level. Your dad's told me a lot about you. Emma studied Charlotte with the intensity only small children can manage. Are you Daddy's girlfriend? Logan choked on air. It's okay. Charlotte smiled. I'm your dad's friend. Is that okay with you? Emma considered this. Do you like frogs? I love frogs. Did you know there are over 5,000 species of frogs in the world? Emma's eyes went wide. 5,000? At least. And some of them can jump 20 times their body length. Charlotte pulled a book from her bag, a children's guide to amphibians. I brought this for you, if you want it. Emma grabbed the book like it was treasure, flipped through the pages, gasped at the colorful photos. Daddy, look! A poison dart frog. I see it, sweetheart. Emma looked up at Charlotte with something close to awe. Can you push me on the swings? If that's okay with your dad. Logan nodded, throat tight, and watched Charlotte follow his daughter to the swing set. Watched her push Emma carefully, listening intently to Emma's stream of consciousness chatter about frogs and daycare and her friend Marcus, who ate glue. They stayed at the park for 2 hours. Emma dragged Charlotte to every piece of equipment, made her go down the slide, demanded she watch Emma cross the monkey bars. Charlotte never looked bored, never checked her phone, just gave Emma her complete attention like there was nowhere else she'd rather be. She's nice, Emma announced when Charlotte went to get them all ice cream from a vendor. I like her. Yeah? Yeah, she knows about frogs, and she doesn't push the swing too high. Emma paused. Is she going to be around more? Would that be okay with you? Emma thought about it seriously. Will she try to be my mom? No, sweetheart. Nobody's trying to replace your mom. Charlotte is just someone who cares about us. Good, because I already have a mom, even if she's gone, Mrs. Chen said. Logan made a mental note to talk to Mrs. Chen about appropriate conversations with 4-year-olds. Mrs. Chen's right. You have a mom. This is different. Different good or different bad? I think different good. But you tell me if it ever feels bad, okay? Okay. Emma spotted Charlotte coming back with ice cream and ran to meet her. Logan watched them. Charlotte handing Emma a cone, Emma grabbing Charlotte's free hand naturally, both of them laughing about something, and felt his heart do something complicated in his chest. This could work. Maybe. Possibly. If they were careful. If they were lucky. If the universe decided to cut them a break for once. After ice cream, Emma crashed hard. 1 minute she was running around, the next she was falling asleep against Logan's shoulder on a park bench. Charlotte sat next to them, quiet. She's amazing, Charlotte said softly. You've done such a good job with her. I've done my best. Some days that's not much. It's everything, Logan. Can't you see that? Logan looked at his sleeping daughter, at Charlotte beside him, at the whole impossible picture they made. I'm starting to, he admitted. They walked back to Logan's car, Emma still asleep in his arms. Charlotte kissed his cheek before leaving, whispered that she'd text him later, drove away in her expensive car that didn't belong in this parking lot. Emma woke up on the drive home. "I like Charlotte," she said sleepily. "Can she come to the park again?" "Maybe. We'll see." "That means yes now, right? Because she's your friend?" Logan smiled. "Yeah, Em. That means yes." That night after Emma was asleep with her new frog book on the nightstand, Logan got a text. "Charlotte, thank you for today, for sharing Emma with me. It means everything." Logan, "She liked you. A lot. You're officially approved." Charlotte, "Best news I've gotten all week." Logan, "I'm falling in love with you. Just thought you should know." He stared at the message for a full minute before hitting send. Watched the dots appear, disappear, appear again. Charlotte, "I'm already in love with you. Just thought you should know." Logan set his phone down with shaking hands. This was real. This was happening. And for the first time since getting fired, since the whole world turned upside down, Logan felt like maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. The severance money lasted exactly 3 months and 2 weeks. Logan watched the number in his bank account shrink with the kind of anxiety that made sleep impossible and appetite disappear. He'd been careful, no unnecessary expenses, cut back on everything except Emma's necessities. But careful didn't matter when money went out faster than it came in. He'd applied to 47 jobs, got callbacks from 3, offers from none. "You're overqualified," one hiring manager told him. "Your employment gap raises questions," said another. The third just never called back. It was late May when Logan sat at his kitchen table with a calculator and a stack of bills, doing math that refused to work no matter how many times he tried. Rent was due in 6 days. Daycare was already 2 weeks behind. The electricity bill had a bright red final notice stamp across the top. He had $432. Charlotte had been staying over more often, 2, sometimes 3 nights a week. Emma had stopped asking if she was staying and started asking when she was coming back. They'd fallen into something that looked almost like a family, and Logan had let himself believe it could last. Now he stared at the bills and felt that belief crumbling. His phone rang. Charlotte. "Hey," he answered, trying to sound normal. "Hey yourself. Emma still wants pizza tonight, right? I was thinking we could try that place on Halstead." "Charlotte, we need to talk." The silence on the other end was immediate and heavy. "Okay," she said carefully. "That's never a good way to start a conversation. Can you come over? After Emma's asleep?" "Logan, you're scaring me." "I know, I'm sorry. Just, can you come over?" "I'm already in my car." She arrived 20 minutes later looking terrified. Logan had sent Emma to Mrs. Chen's apartment with her overnight bag and a promise of dumplings for dinner. The apartment felt too empty without her. "What's wrong?" Charlotte asked the second she walked in. "Is it Emma? Are you sick? Did something—" "I'm broke." Logan said it flat, no inflection. "The severance ran out. I can't make rent. I'm about to lose the apartment." Charlotte stared at him. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it's not your problem." "Not my— Logan, we've been together for 3 months. I'm in love with you. How is this not my problem?" "Because I need to handle my own life. I can't just—" Logan gestured helplessly. "I can't be the guy who needs you to rescue him financially. That's not who I want to be." "So instead you're the guy who hides when things get hard? That's better?" "It's honest." Charlotte laughed, but there was no humor in it. "No, it's not. Honest would be telling me you were struggling, asking for help. This is pride, Logan, and pride is going to get you and Emma evicted." "I'll figure something out." "How? You've been looking for months. The jobs aren't there." Charlotte pulled out her phone. "I can cover your rent, your bills, whatever you need until you find something." "No." "Why not?" "Because then what am I? Your kept man? The broke boyfriend living off your money? You'd be my partner who's going through a rough patch and letting me help. That's what people do when they love each other." Logan shook his head. "You don't understand. You've never been poor, never had to choose between feeding your kid and paying rent. Money is just, it's numbers to you. But to me, it's everything. It's safety, it's stability. It's the difference between Emma having a home or living in my car." Charlotte's face went pale. "Is that really a possibility? The car?" "I don't know. Maybe. I've been looking at shelters, at programs. Stop. Charlotte crossed to him, grabbed his shoulders. Listen to me. You are not taking Emma to a shelter. You're not living in your car. That's not happening. Then what's the alternative? Take your money and feel like shit about myself every single day? The alternative is you let me love you. Let me be part of this. Stop treating me like I'm some outsider who doesn't get to share the hard parts. Logan pulled away from her. This is different. This isn't sharing. This is you saving me because I failed. You didn't fail. The economy failed. Your company failed. A system that pays maintenance workers poverty, wages failed. But you're still here, still trying, still taking care of your daughter. That's not failure. It feels like failure. I know. Charlotte's voice softened. But it's not. And I need you to trust me enough to let me help. Not as a rich person helping a poor person. As someone who loves you helping someone she loves. Logan wanted to argue. Wanted to hold on to his pride and his independence and all the walls he'd built to keep himself from needing anyone. But looking at Charlotte, at the woman who'd fought her board for him, who read frog books to his daughter, who showed up at his apartment in the middle of a Wednesday just because he asked, he couldn't find the words. I don't know how, he admitted. How to let you help without losing myself. Then we figure it out together, but Logan, you have to let me in. All the way in, not just the good parts, the scary parts too. Logan sank onto the couch, head in his hands. I'm terrified. Of losing everything. Of Emma getting hurt. Of you waking up one day and realizing this is too hard. Charlotte sat beside him, took his hand. I'm terrified too. Of screwing this up, of not being enough. Of you deciding I'm just some rich girl who doesn't understand real problems. She squeezed his fingers. But I'd rather be terrified together than alone. Wouldn't you? Logan looked at her. Really looked at her. And saw his own fear reflected back. She wasn't perfect. Wasn't some untouchable CEO who had all the answers. She was just Charlotte, scared and hopeful and trying to figure out how to love someone when love meant something bigger than she'd ever imagined. Okay, he said quietly. Okay? Help me, but on my terms, alone, not a gift. I pay you back when I find work. Charlotte nodded. Okay. We can do that. And I keep looking for jobs. This isn't permanent. Agreed. And you can't tell anyone about this. Not your friends, not anyone at the company. This stays between us. Logan, please, I need that. I need some dignity in this. Charlotte looked like she wanted to argue, but she nodded. Okay, between us. Logan felt something in his chest unclench. I'm sorry. For not telling you sooner, for being too proud to ask. I'm sorry for pushing, for not understanding how hard this is for you. They sat in silence for a while, hands linked, trying to navigate this new territory between them. I have an idea, Charlotte said finally, but you're probably going to hate it. Great start. What if you worked for me? Not at Sterling Vale, somewhere else. I've been thinking about starting something new. Something that actually means something. And I could use someone who understands buildings, maintenance, operations. Logan pulled his hand back. Charlotte, hear me out. It would be a real job, real salary. You'd earn it. But it would also be flexible enough that you could be there for Emma. No night shifts, no choosing between work and being a father. What kind of business? I don't know yet. That's the problem. I've spent my whole life in finance, doing what my father wanted. But I keep thinking about what you said about having options, about not being defined by expectations. Charlotte leaned forward. I want to build something that actually helps people. Affordable housing, maybe. Community development, something real. That sounds expensive. I have money, Logan. More money than I'll ever spend. Money my father left me that's just sitting in accounts collecting interest. Why not use it for something that matters? Logan wanted to say no. Wanted to keep the walls up, keep their lives separate. But the truth was, he was desperate. And Charlotte was offering him something more than money. She was offering partnership, purpose, a way forward that didn't involve charity or shame. I need to think about it, he said. Take all the time you need. But in the meantime, the rent, the bills, I'll transfer money tonight. We'll call it a loan. You can pay me back whenever. Logan nodded, throat tight. Thank you. Don't thank me. We're in this together now. That's what together means. Charlotte left an hour later, and Logan sat alone in his apartment, feeling like he'd just stepped off a cliff, without knowing if there was ground below or just more falling. His phone buzzed. A bank notification. Charlotte had transferred $15,000. Logan stared at the number until it blurred. 15,000. More money than he'd ever had at one time. Enough to cover months of rent, to catch up on bills, to breathe for the first time since getting fired. He wanted to feel grateful, relieved. Instead, he felt small. Mrs. Chen brought Emma back an hour later. The CEO girl looked upset when she left, Mrs. Chen said. Everything okay? Define okay? You're still together? Yeah, we're still together. Then it's okay. Mrs. Chen headed for the door, then paused. Pride is a luxury, Logan. Love is a necessity. Don't confuse the two. After Emma was asleep, Logan lay in bed thinking about Charlotte's offer. A real job with flexible hours. Working on something that mattered. It sounded too good to be true, which usually meant it was. But what if it wasn't? What if this was just life offering him a break for once? His phone lit up. Charlotte, I know you're probably overthinking this, but I meant what I said. I want to build something with you, not just a relationship, something real that helps people. Think about it. Logan, I am thinking about it. That's the problem. Charlotte, what's the worst that could happen? Logan, I fail. You resent me. Emma gets hurt. We lose everything. Charlotte, what's the best that could happen? Logan stared at the question. He'd spent so long preparing for worst-case scenarios that he'd forgotten how to imagine good outcomes. Logan, we build something amazing together, and maybe I stop being terrified all the time. Charlotte, I like that version better. Logan, me too. But I don't know how to get there from here. Charlotte, one day at a time, one choice at a time, starting with you saying yes to working with me. Logan, I haven't said yes yet. Charlotte, but you're going to. I can tell. Logan smiled despite himself. Logan, you're very confident for someone whose boyfriend is currently unemployed and living off her money. Charlotte, you're not living off my money. You're accepting help from someone who loves you. There's a difference. Logan thought about that for a long time after Charlotte said goodnight, about the difference between charity and love, between dependence and partnership, between failing alone and succeeding together. 2 days later, Logan called Charlotte. I'm in, he said. Whatever you're building, I want to help. Charlotte's laugh sounded like relief and joy mixed together. Really? Really, but I have conditions. Of course you do. I want a real contract, market rate salary, clear responsibilities. This has to be legitimate. Agreed. And if it doesn't work, if I'm not good at this, you fire me. No keeping me on because we're together. That seems harsh. That seems fair. Charlotte was quiet for a moment. Okay, deal. When can you start? What am I starting? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. They spent the next month planning. Charlotte hired lawyers and accountants. Logan researched affordable housing models, community development strategies, programs that actually worked. They met in coffee shops, in Charlotte's apartment, and once, memorably, in Logan's living room while Emma built block towers and explained frog biology to anyone who would listen. Slowly, something took shape. Not a company exactly, a foundation. Charlotte would fund it. Logan would run operations, and they'd focus on creating affordable housing with built-in support services. Childcare, job training, the things Logan had needed and never had access to. We should call it Carter Vale, Charlotte said one afternoon. Logan looked up from the papers he was reviewing. What? The foundation. Carter Vale Community Development. Your name and mine. That sounds like a law firm. Okay, what about Vale Carter? Still sounds like a law firm. You're very difficult to please. I prefer realistic. Emma looked up from her coloring book. What about Emma's house? They both turned to look at her. What about it, sweetheart? Logan asked. You're building houses for people who need them, right? Like we needed this apartment when Mommy left? Emma's logic was 4-year-old simple. So it should be Emma's house, because I know what it's like. Charlotte's eyes filled with tears. Emma, that's perfect. And it was. Emma's House Foundation launched in September. Small at first. 1 building, 12 units, families who'd been living in shelters or cars or doubled up with relatives. Logan interviewed every family personally, remembered what it felt like to be desperate and scared and hoping someone would take a chance on you. Charlotte handled the money, the legal work, the parts Logan didn't understand. But the day-to-day, the maintenance, the support services, the actual work of building community, that was Logan's. He was good at it, better than good. He understood what these families needed because he'd needed it himself. Understood that sometimes the difference between making it and falling apart was someone who believed in you. Marcus Webb tried to block the foundation, told the Sterling Vale board that Charlotte was wasting company resources on vanity projects. But Charlotte had been careful. Emma's house wasn't connected to Sterling Vale. It was hers, funded by her inheritance, beyond his reach. The board forced her out anyway. It happened in November, 6 months after Logan got fired. Charlotte came home to Logan's apartment. She'd been staying there more than her own place lately and collapsed on the couch. "They voted me out," she said, "effective immediately. Marcus is CEO." Logan sat beside her. "Are you okay?" "I don't know. I should be devastated. My father's company, his legacy, it's gone. But I feel," Charlotte laughed, "relieved. Is that crazy? I lost everything my father built and I feel relieved." "It's not crazy. It wasn't yours. It was his. Now you get to build something that's actually yours." Charlotte leaned against Logan's shoulder. "Ours. Emma's house is ours." "Okay, ours." Emma wandered in from her room, climbed onto Charlotte's lap without asking. She did that now, treated Charlotte like permanent furniture, someone who belonged. "Are you sad?" Emma asked. "A little," Charlotte admitted. "Daddy says it's okay to be sad sometimes, that feelings don't have to make sense." Charlotte smiled. "Your daddy's a smart man." "I know. He knows everything about buildings." Emma paused. "Are you going to live here now, since you don't have to go to your office anymore?" Logan's heart stopped. They'd been dancing around that question for weeks. Charlotte spent most nights here, had a drawer in his dresser and a toothbrush in the bathroom, but officially moving in felt like a huge step. Charlotte looked at Logan. "Would that be okay with you?" "Em, can you give us a minute?" Logan said. Emma huffed but wandered back to her room. "I don't want you to move in because you lost your job," Logan said quietly. "I want you to move in because you want to be here." "I do want to be here. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to help Emma with her homework and argue about what to have for dinner and do all the boring domestic things I never thought I'd care about." Charlotte took his hand. "But only if you want that too." Logan thought about his life a year ago. Working nights, barely surviving, so lonely he'd forgotten what it felt like to want something for himself. Thought about Charlotte asking why he wouldn't look at her, about elevator conversations in Vietnamese restaurants and all the moments that had led here. "Yeah," he said. "I want that." "Yeah?" "Yeah." Charlotte kissed him, and Emma cheered from her bedroom, even though she wasn't supposed to be listening. They got married the following winter. Nothing fancy. Logan couldn't afford fancy, and Charlotte didn't want it. Just a small ceremony at a community center, the kind of place Emma's house families used for gatherings. Mrs. Chen cried through the whole thing. Emma was the flower girl and took her job so seriously she counted every petal she dropped. Charlotte wore a simple white dress that probably still cost more than most people's rent, but looked perfect on her. Logan wore a suit he'd bought from a thrift store and had tailored to fit. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promises about showing up, about being honest, about loving each other through the scary parts. "I promise to let you help me," Logan said, and Charlotte laughed through tears. "I promise to let you be proud," Charlotte said, and Logan's throat went tight. When they kissed, Emma cheered and Mrs. Chen cried harder, and Logan felt something settle in his chest, something that felt like home. The reception was in the same community center. Cheap wine and grocery store cake, and a playlist Charlotte made of songs that meant something to them. They danced in a room full of people who'd become family. Emma's house residents, Mrs. Chen and her daughter, a few of Charlotte's friends who'd stuck around after she left Sterling Vale. Logan held his wife, and thought about how far they'd come from that first night when she asked why he wouldn't look at her. "What are you thinking about?" Charlotte asked. "That I'm glad I finally looked." "Me too." Emma's house grew. One building became 3, then 5. They expanded into job training, childcare, mental health services. Charlotte was brilliant at fundraising. She understood rich people, knew how to make them care about poverty without feeling threatened by it. Logan was brilliant at implementation. He understood what actually helped versus what just sounded good on paper. Together, they built something that mattered. Emma grew up surrounded by families rebuilding their lives. Learned early that home wasn't about money or size or having everything perfect. Learned that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was ask for help. That love looked like showing up, especially when things were hard. On her 8th birthday, Emma asked if she could volunteer at the foundation. "You're 8, Logan said. What kind of volunteering? I could read to the little kids or help with homework. I'm really good at reading now." Charlotte smiled. "I think that's a wonderful idea." So Emma started reading to toddlers in the childcare center every Saturday, started understanding in the way only children who've lived through struggle can, what it meant to give back. Logan watched his daughter help a 3-year-old sound out words and felt something in his chest expand. This was what Charlotte had given them, not just money or stability, but purpose, a way to turn pain into something useful. "She's going to change the world," Charlotte said, standing beside him. "She already is." That night, after Emma was asleep in the bedroom that was actually big enough for her now, they'd moved to a better apartment a year after getting married, Logan and Charlotte sat on their balcony watching the city. "Do you ever regret it?" Logan asked. "Giving up Sterling Vale? All that power and money?" Charlotte thought about it. "Sometimes I miss the challenge. But then I come home to you and Emma and the work we're doing, and I remember why I left. My father spent his whole life building something impressive. I'd rather build something important." Emma's house is both. Maybe. But even if it wasn't, I'd still choose this. Choose you. Logan pulled her close. "I love you. I love you too." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Chicago sprawl out below them. Somewhere in the city, families were struggling the way Logan had struggled. Somewhere, someone was working 3 jobs and still not making rent. Somewhere, a single parent was lying awake wondering how to keep their kids safe. Emma's house couldn't save everyone, couldn't fix a system built to keep people poor, but it could help some people. Could be the difference between making it and falling apart for a few dozen families a year. And maybe that was enough. Maybe enough was all anyone could ask for. Logan thought about the scared, exhausted man he'd been a year ago. Thought about avoiding Charlotte's eyes, about working until he broke, about believing he had to do everything alone. That man felt like a stranger now. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on me, even when I was being stubborn and proud and impossible. Thank you for letting me in, even when it was terrifying." They went inside eventually, checked on Emma one last time. She was sprawled across her bed with 3 library books and Mr. Trunks, and went to bed in the room they shared, the life they'd built together. It wasn't perfect. Money was still tight sometimes. Emma's house required constant fundraising, constant work. They argued about finances, about Emma's education, about all the normal things couples argued about. But they showed up for each other. Every day, even the hard days, they showed up. And in the end, that was what mattered. Not the money or the success or the impressive titles, just 2 people who'd decided that loving each other was worth the risk, worth the fear, worth rebuilding their entire lives around. Years later, when people asked how they met, Charlotte always told the truth. "He was invisible and I refused to let him stay that way." And Logan would add, "She was untouchable and I stopped being afraid to reach." Emma would roll her eyes at both of them and say, "They met in an elevator and Dad saved her life and now we help people." The end. Which was true too, in its way. The simple version of a complicated story. The story of 2 people from different worlds who built a bridge between them, who learned that love wasn't about deserving or being good enough. It was about showing up, being honest, letting yourself need someone and letting them need you back. It was about looking at someone, really looking, and deciding they were worth the risk of everything falling apart. Because sometimes, if you were lucky, everything fell together instead. And Logan and Charlotte were lucky. Not in the fairy tale way where everything was easy and perfect, but in the real way, where things were hard and scary and uncertain, but you had someone beside you who refused to let you face it alone. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything.